Okay, so what activities do you do in your club? Is there like your favorite activity or something like that?
Activity. Okay. So we, if I mean, provided that a lot of people come to the lab and work after class hours, we usually tend to have a few hangout spots whenever we take a break and breaks and stuff. In fact, there behind college there's a I forgot. I mean, if you near the if you at the back gate of the college, if you take a left and you keep going straight, there's like a few. There's a chart shop or something, and there's a
Oh,
shop where you
Bahar.
get. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there are quite a few hangout places like that where we just chill and talk about non-technical stuff as well, and we get to know each other much better as well. Yeah, those were the good times before the pandemic happened. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we do definitely chill out. It's not like we're always serious, but provided people like participate enthusiastically and get together in the lab, multiple times in a week.
Great.
Like adding on that, of course, like when it comes to like fabrication, I mean, when you're looking into, like something that we enjoy doing technically, I think fabrication is one which, like involves a lot of hands on the deck. And yeah, I mean, obviously, like it's a really fun experience thing to do. And, like you have a lot of activities going on in parallel. And yeah, I mean, certainly like that brings out the best teamwork motive in you. And yeah, like Shri Krishna was saying, chilling is the best next, like activity.
Okay. So Varun, I guess you go to detailed questions now.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some general questions we have about your club in specific terms. All right. So what scale of aircraft do you generally work with? Like when you make a model of an aircraft, what is the general scale you work with?
Okay. Sometimes, like, I mean, I'll be talking about the DBF part of it, and then I'll move on to a bit of IRC.
Sure.
Regarding DBF, like when you're looking at fixed wing aircraft, like we usually have a lot of like size regulated by the competition authorities itself.
All right.
Like suppose sometimes you have a maximum wingspan limit, and sometimes you have the maximum propulsion power limit, and all those limits usually put a like a huge restrictions on like how much of like power that you can generate from your aircraft, and like thereby regulate the size of it.
Right, right.
And like it's more of an optimal sizing that we're looking at, like in the main competition that we're participating in. It's not the biggest aircraft that runs, but it's the most efficient aircraft that runs.
Right.
And yeah, like in other places, like you have purely like say the payload deterministic aircraft, wherein the more payload you carry, the more points you get. In such cases, like yeah, like I said, there's usually limits and everything. But on an average, the usual scale that we usually work with is aircraft having a minimum wingspan of around 1.5 meters.
All right. All right.
Okay.
That would be the like most ideal like zone of comfort that the team is looking at. And yeah, like in the last year's competition, like we had plans for implementing a fixed wing variant and the IRC competition as well. And of course, like yeah, for that, like we had a pretty big, like requirement, and I think we were looking at a wingspan of around 3 to 4 meters there.
Right. Right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what like do you make, like what type of drones do you make, like autonomous systems and remote controlled, or like you go with the specification of the competition?
Okay, so the drones, as I said, most of the national competitions like IIT Bombay, IIT Roorkee, etc., they don't require, the competitions are not usually autonomous drone related competitions. They usually are racing competitions or maneuvering competitions of drones, where basically we have to manually control the drone.
Right.
Okay.
But the International Aerial Robotics Competition (IRC) is completely focusing on autonomous quadcopters or octocopters or hexacopters, depending upon the problem statement. So
Okay.
this year we were planning to build an octocopter and a quadcopter because the competition required two aerial systems rather than one which is much more powerful than the other in terms of the thrust of it. So but in the previous year IARCs, we've been told to focus only on quadcopters, that is four rotors. So it entirely depends on the competition what the how many BLDC motors does the drone need to have. In terms of scaling, I would say that the standard, the most popular drone which you find, the drone frame which you find is 450 millimeters in diameter. That is from one be a motor to the other motor. But when that for most of the racing competitions and maneuvering competitions, we tend to focus on very smaller drones, like the miniature drones, not too small, but quite smaller than the 450 frame, possibly 250 / 200 frames. And for autonomous drones, like the IRC requirements usually tend to have much bigger drones, which vary from very 1 meter to 2 meter, or maybe 2 meter range or diameter drones as well. So yeah, it depends entirely on the competition or what we participate in.
Okay.
Okay. So do you only make electric powered aircraft, or do you make petrol powered ones as well?
Yeah, like I was saying, I think a few years before, like about some 5 years before, like more, I mean, like we did have a lot of, like IC engine propelled, aircraft as well. But like all the most recent competitions that we're looking at are usually like electrically powered, and even in battery electronics, like we have a few certain limitations. Like suppose lithium batteries are kind of like explosive, so I mean they have their own safety regulations there. Yeah, I mean, like coming into the, I mean, when you ask about say like the IC engine propelled ones, like recently we've not had any because like none of the competitions allow that. I mean, that's one of the major limitations that we have actually. But like working on the passion now, like sector of it, I think we can certainly look into like building a one up, like if there are enough people interested.
Right.
Okay. So where do you test your aircrafts?
Yeah, okay, that's one thing. We, I mean, prior to about some like 2 years before, like we used to test the aircraft like within the university campus itself. But like from the past 2 years, there's a lot of construction work and everything going on. So like we have plans of like testing some of the aircraft in the EC campus. I mean, like yeah, one thing like I mean, I think we had to mention was like where the club focused in RR campus. So we're planning to have I mean, some of the testing like in EC campus, like if the college management approves that decision. And like as a I mean, like as a temporary arrangement, like we had we were going to the NISO to test the aircraft, and yeah, like that was about it. But I mean, like even there, like we have a lot of like permissions and everything to take from the state national patrol like officers. Like I mean, like we have a few like limitations when it comes to that, and yeah, I mean, like when we go for like full scale model testing, like we have a few pilot contacts like who are professional pilots. So I mean, like they'll have their own time spaces. So I mean, like probably we can utilize them as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to the drone testing part of it, like I mean, it's not much of a problem because like we have a pretty reasonable good space like within the like club space that we are allotted, and yeah, we have most of that.
Okay. Okay, so do you need some basic knowledge or any concept before joining this club, or can a complete newbie to this thing just join a club and thrive?
Okay, so if a newbie, the newbie is a incoming first year, who doesn't really know much about the club, then we won't be too harsh on the person because they're entering the college. So, but yeah, the basic aptitude is what we basically test initially. Like the aptitude has more weightage compared to the technical knowledge which the student has. Basically, the ability to think and the passion to learn and the enthusiasm involved in learning about the specific drones or fixed wing in general. But when it comes to like people who are in higher years, like second or third years, we focus more on the technical knowledge which they have before they can join the club. Right. So that is with respect to both IRC and DBF, as far as I know.
Right.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to add, like, I mean, let me talk about my personal experience here. Like, when I joined the team in first year, like, I didn't pretty much know any of the technical terms, but I knew the physics that goes behind it.
Right.
So, I mean, that physics understanding is what we are really focused on, like, especially the TBF part of it. I mean, because there's not much of coding that you have, but I mean, more of the optimization. I mean, like, I mean, I'm sorry that I keep repeating the same word, but yeah, I mean, that's most of the competition that we have. So, I mean, that's what, I mean, your mind should really be focused on, like how you're trying to optimize stuff and, like how you do trade-off analysis and everything. Like I said, like the best case scenario might not be the best suitable for you.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're a person who is like, like really, like well versed in, like how different, like factors affect a certain thing. Like suppose like you're speed will obviously indicate like how much of like payload or anything that you can carry. So as long as you have the preliminary understanding of the physics, like when I talk about physics here, like I usually talk about your Bernoulli's principle,
Okay.
or like the base is the most basic stuff like that. And like if you're good with that, I think you can carry on. Like you don't need to worry about the actual technical terms that go into it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like when you're joining the team, I think like a certain basic crash course on like say the preliminary, like the most basic aerodynamics, or like when it comes to coding, the preliminary coding language that you have, I think like that can give you a certain edge, but we're not really focusing on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, having technical knowledge will definitely give you an edge over others. But in addition to that, as Manoj said, the passion to learn and continue as a part of the club is equally important, rather than like, with the technical knowledge as well.
Right.
So does your club fund any passion project of any student? Like, have you done any model like where someone just gave an idea and then you decide, okay, this is a good idea, let's.
Okay. Yeah. As I said, the AOLS is actually highly competition driven. The main that's why the domains names are IIRs and DBF, because the domains are working for a specific competition. So ideally, the first priority is not for hobby projects or doing projects of your own, but whenever we are participating in competitions, we buy a lot of components required for to maybe build a drone or build the fixed wing aircrafts. So if basically if the hobby project can contribute somehow to the drone or a fixed wing we're building for the competition, we can definitely consider that as a part of the system we're building. Or if the person wants to borrow components from the lab and utilize it for their own project, that's totally fine. Once the person is a member of AOLS, they are free to work around with any components present in the lab. But the priority is given to the competition mainly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, like one thing for that is like we really want to like support that, but because the university like rules and regulations, I mean that's the key here. I mean like we're not really allowed to fund anything, like because like the funding that we get is usually limited, and it's usually I mean pretty much scrutinized well. So I mean we have really less room to play around with. So I mean we have to do best in like what we get.
Right. Okay, so are there any tips for us freshers?
Yeah, when it comes to surviving in stress, it's probably, I mean, the best to keep your CGPA, I mean, like well above others, because like we have, sometimes we have a few normalizations and everything and the grades. So here, the main thing that happens here is, like you need to make sure that you are better than others. I mean, that's the key to success really in stress. And the best way to do that is, like start focusing on like your grades and stuff like from the first year. I mean, basically set a goal for yourself. I mean, I think staying above 9 or above 8.5 should be really easy. And like, I mean, along with managing your co-curriculars, that is. So, yeah, I mean, like coming to the like formal part of it, I think CGPA is the most important thing that you have. And yeah, the other tips in general would be to, like make sure that you know everything. I mean, you know who to approach like for everything that you need. Because I mean, as university, like they have their own certain like I mean they have their own certain process for everything. So I mean it's better if you know that, and that's where like being a part in like other clubs and other activities like really helps a lot, because like you have a lot of like interaction with your seniors and everyone. So I mean like how to approach it, because like your seniors might have faced the same problems as you before. So it really helps you a lot in like overcoming all these obstacles. And yeah, it's really better and like stuff like ALS and everything like really helps you build your resume and everything, and that really has a lot of edge. Like believe me, like I've experienced a few placement interviews, and like I even got placement over. So like it really, like it's actually a really good distinguishing factor. And even if you're looking at say like writing your SOPs or LORs for your future studies, it really helps a lot. And yeah, I mean, gain a lot of experience as possible and do a lot of projects, and like get hold of a really good professor, and like start writing research papers and everything. It really helps your like I mean your application and candidature stand out like among others.
Yeah, I would like to add a couple of things. So yeah, so when you come to college, right, especially PES, there are a lot of opportunities which you guys get. It's not like you have a limited set of opportunities. Compared to a few other colleges, which I know, the number of opportunities is quite high, and my advice would be to explore as much as you can. Never limit yourself to a specific domain of engineering or a specific specialization. Keep like explore everything, whatever you feel curious about or you feel passionate about, and once you feel like you're in the right direction, and you found something which you want to pursue in your career. Maybe like, for example, I personally, when I joined college, I didn't know what to do, and by the end of my third year I realized I wanted to do a PhD in the end, in specific domain, that is robot motion planning. So basically explore that, and I came to the decision only after exploring every single possible decision which I can take, every single possible direction or domain, not just in engineering, not just in technical, but in non-technical domains as well. So don't limit yourself. Sky's the limit. Just keep exploring everything, and just follow your passion, whatever you want to do. Don't go into peer pressure just because someone else is doing something. You have to do the same thing. Like I'm not waiting for placements because I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna I don't want to go into the industry, and I came to the decision of going into the industry, going into academia and not in the industry, only after I did a thorough had a thorough experience with both, and did proper research and explored various opportunities. So that's just an example. So yeah, just utilize the opportunities you get, make complete use of the options and the time which you got, and at the same time, don't forget to enjoy your time. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, one small thing I'd like to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, one thing that, I mean, everyone has a certain free time, like in their engineering. Engineering is not really stressful except in the, like right before your exams and stuff. It's what you do in the time between your, like, the internals and like the other internals, or like the start of the semester to the internals. That's what really counts, because like after your second internals and till your ESA, you're not really much, like you don't have much time. So like the actual usable time that you have throughout your college year is basically like 1 month before your first ISA, 1 month before your second ISA, and like when you add them up for both the semesters, like it's around 4 months, and then like the 2 months, gap between your even semester and the odd semester that you have. The total workable time is about like just over some 6 months. So it's what you do in that time really counts a lot. And like it's best. Like Shri Krishna was saying, like never settle, and like don't succumb to peer pressure. And but also, there's one thing that many like students tend to do is that they overload themselves. Like they get into a lot of activities, greater than the amount that they can really, like put their best effort towards. But keep a note on that. Explore, but like like know your limits, and like as and when you like progress through the time, like you'll learn that you can extend your limit as well.
Right.
Okay.
You'll realize that you're capable, much more capable of than what you actually thought. So yeah, your work like really dictates what you want to strive towards.
One more thing last thing I would like to add is, when I say explore, make sure you commit yourself. When you commit yourself to, for example, a club, right? When in the process of exploring, don't take it lightly. And if you feel like that's not the right thing for you, shifting away immediately might not be a good idea. So because a commitment is supposed to be a commitment, so whichever task you're committing to, make sure you complete it wholeheartedly and put all your efforts. It's always good to finish what you started, rather than keep be shifting continuously without actually understanding or going in depth of a specific domain or a club or whatever. So that's actually quite important, that you take your time and do your responsibilities, fulfill your responsibilities before you think about shifting to a different club or a domain.
Thank you, viewers, for watching this video. Thanks a lot to Manoj and Shri Krishna for giving their time to us. This was really helpful. Your club is amazing, and I'm sure many people will join it. It seems incredible, and thank you, guys. All relevant links to Team Aeolus is in the description box below. There's also a link down below for our Freshers Instagram page and Discord, and there's also one for our Instagram page on this channel, Best Club. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video,
like, share, and click here to subscribe.